Hi everybody, my name is Michelle. I use she, her, they, them pronouns. I am a 28-year-old trans woman of color and I start law school in less than 2 weeks. It hasn't been an easy journey to get here. It's been a very stressful one that has put me through tears, has put me through a lot of stress, but we made it. And with making this video, I'm hoping to be able to share a little bit about my experience of applying, what it was like taking the LSAT, where did I apply to school, and ultimately where I'm going. So I'm hoping that this opens up a conversation for people to ask me questions. Reach out to me if you want to apply to law school too, especially as a trans person. This institution of law, this academic institution that is law school, is not easy to navigate. I know that people have been telling me, am I sure I want to go? But I am, and I know it's not going to be easy, but it is one that's necessary. And I have no regrets about my choice. I can't find my mics. I had like little portable mics, like influencer mics, but I can't find them. So I'm hoping that people can hear me. I turned off my AC. I have an air purifier too right here. Turned both of those things off. So hopefully that helped. I don't normally film stuff from my bedroom, but I was like, let me just set it up in my bedroom. So I have my computer right here. I have all the info I need to share with y'all, where I applied, my LSAT score, all of that. But to start, I really recommend people, before even thinking about applying to law school, starting to apply to law school, to think about the resources that are available to you. And resources can come in many different forms, shapes. It could be maybe someone you know that's a lawyer. It could be someone in your family that's a lawyer, a friend you know that's a lawyer, some easy Google search. For me, I thought long and hard about applying for law school. I thought for about like 5 years, really sat on the idea of applying. And I ultimately ended up applying because I applied to a fellowship program, which was a pipeline program, which essentially prepared me to apply for law school. It assisted me with my application process, gave me an LSAT study course, and many of those resources that made it a lot easier to apply. If I didn't have that program, honestly, I don't think I would have been able to get into as many schools as I did. I had taken the LSAT once when I first thought about applying back in 2020. I didn't get a good score, and so I was like, no, I'm not gonna go right now. I waited, applied to this fellowship, got in, and then applied. I applied to this fellowship at the end of 2023. The fellowship's name is Legal Education Access Pipeline. It is a pipeline program for marginalized students, underrepresented students, really trying to get students who often don't get a chance to enter the legal profession, giving them the opportunity to do so. So I went through that program. They gave me a mentor. They helped us with our personal statements, our diversity statements, gave us an LSAT Prep course, and gave us sessions every month that helped us meet attorneys that were in the profession, helped us meet judges, helped us meet people that were lawyers from different walks of life, so that we could see what it would be like for us when we became attorneys. I recommend looking into any one of those programs. There's a lot of them. There is, I know one called like UCLA Law Fellows. There's Yale Launchpad, I think. There's LEAP. There's many different programs, so I really encourage you to look into one of those pipeline programs. They prep you for about a year, or like 9 months to a year before you actually apply, which I know can be like kind of anxiety inducing for a lot of people that are like, I want to apply now. But I would really recommend taking the time to take your time with your application and not applying in a rush. And these pipeline programs help you not do that. I started preparing my application for law school in February of 2024. And I ended up applying in November of 2024, leading me to finally start law school in August of 2025. So it was over a year between when I first started prepping my application to when I'm about to start. We started really quickly with LSAT Prep. We studied from February to August. I would recommend more time than that if you want to take more time to study for the LSAT, or have the ability to take more time to study for the LSAT, just because it is a routine and a way of thinking that you have to train your mind to do. And studying like 1 hour a week isn't going to really cut it. You need to be on the grind, studying really often, which for many people isn't possible, which I think why law school is such an inaccessible profession, because these people that have access to resources, these people that come from families that have been to law school, know where to get these resources, have the ability to stop working to go take the test, to study for the test, which for me wasn't possible. I worked full time the entirety of studying for the LSAT, took it. I ended up taking the LSAT twice, actually, and I studied between February to August, and then August to October, and then I took it again in October. So in 2024, I took the LSAT a total of 2 times, but in total, my whole law school application experience, I took it a total of 3 times, which is important to mention because every single time you take the LSAT, it doesn't get erased from your account. When you apply for law schools see every single attempt you take at the law school admissions test, unless it's past, I think, about 10 years. So if you take a test 10 years, then it'll disappear. But if you took it within the last like 2 years or a year before, that score is going to show up, and it'll impact how people view your application. I took the LSAT 3 times. The first time I took the test, I got a 150. No, not a 150. The first time I took the test, I got a 148. The second time I took the test, I got a 149. And then the last time I took the test was a 162. My goal score was a 165. I didn't get a 165, unfortunately, but I was still really close to it. So I was still really proud of myself. And it still opened up the door for me to get access to pretty substantial scholarships. The score that you get on the LSAT will determine how much money that schools offer you many times. I didn't take it as seriously as I should have when I was applying. I was like, you know what, my lived experience, you know, the fact that I'm trans, the fact that I've done work in community, my background, you know, I don't come from privilege. I have community advocacy experience, and any school would be lucky to have me, was the mentality that I had. But ultimately, the LSAT was a huge factor in schools even reading my application, is what I'm assuming. Because many of the schools that I thought I was going to get into, I didn't get into. And I think a huge reason because of that is because of the LSAT. These cycles are becoming increasingly more competitive, and so it's making it a lot more difficult to get noticed. And many times I feel that your score on the LSAT gets you a foot in the door to even get your applications reviewed, is my assumption. Schools have medians for what the schools look for in their LSATs. Some schools won't accept anyone below a 165. Some schools, the median is 170, which means that they look for people mainly in the 170 to 180 range. And so your score is really important in determining which schools you'll get the ability to get accepted into, unfortunately. The test is really, really difficult. I can share a little bit about the test. It's broken up into 3 sections, I believe now. So it's logical reasoning and reading comprehension. Oh, actually, just logical reasoning and reading comprehension. They got rid of logic games, which was puzzle type games. Now it's just logical reasoning and reading comprehension. So people will get various numbers of those sections depending on whether or not you get accommodations or not, which is important to note. Accommodations for like reading disabilities or ADHD, things like that will give you more time on a test, or they'll give you the ability to take less sections, because in the LSAT there is an experimental section that isn't scored. You basically just take it, and it's practice questions that the LSAT is testing to see if they're, you know, worth putting in future tests, which isn't scored. So many times you'll do really good on an experimental section, but then not do good in an actual scored section, and that'll really impact your score as well. So there's many different things you can do to prep for the LSAT, one of those being accommodations. Like I said, I took it 3 times, got a 162. I was happy with it. Just happy that I improved so much from the first time that I took it. So I wasn't going to take it again. That test gave me so much stress, so much anxiety, made me cry so many times because it really did make me feel dumb. When I wouldn't do well on a practice test, it made me feel like my intelligence level was really low because I couldn't get what felt like common sense questions. But that test isn't a representation of your intelligence. It's a representation of how well you can pick up certain styles of thinking and certain patterns within a test, which is all about repetition and practice, which for many people isn't always possible. So just want to say that before I move into the next section, because the LSAT can become a really personal test, and I don't want people to think of it that way. After I got my LSAT score, I started prepping all of my other materials. I had already been prepping them, but finalizing them between September to November. So I wrote a personal statement, I wrote a diversity statement, or some schools call it a challenges addendum. The personal statement basically asks you to talk about why you want to apply to law school, why you're applying now, what type of law you want to practice, while a diversity statement allows you to talk a little bit more about your personal experience, what specifically makes you a good candidate, what about your background makes you someone that would benefit from being in the legal profession. That's where you talk about, your identities versus your experiences or your reasons why you want to apply. That was difficult to distinguish because all of my experience, my identities contributed to why I wanted to apply. So choosing what I wanted to include in each statement was difficult, but I ended up, choosing to focus more on my work, my advocacy experience, and then using my diversity statement to focus more on my identities, my background, and how people like me aren't really represented in the legal profession. When I was done with all my materials, I had several people review them. I had a mentor through the pipeline program. I went through review them. I had friends review them. We had the ability to have consultants through the pipeline program review them too. And I also read them out loud to myself. I did several drafts of my personal and diversity statements. They changed drastically between when I started them in February to when I finished them in around October. I would really encourage people to just do a brain fart on a page when you first start. What are some of the things you want to say? And then use time to restructure all of what you think you want to say into a fully coherent essay. But really make sure you take time to work on your drafts and have them be fully edited, full representations of your most proud work, because you don't get another chance to apply. I mean, you do get another chance to apply, but once you apply, you can't resubmit them. And you want to make sure you're submitting your best work. People are interested, I can definitely read my personal statement. I'm not going to do that today, but I do have my personal statement, my diversity statement. If anyone wants to see those, more than happy to send those to you. I'm going to upload this on YouTube, so I don't know how many people are going to see this, but people, at least in my immediate community from like Instagram and stuff, please do reach out to me if you want to see any of my statements. They could also be helpful for grad school if you're thinking about applying to grad school or anything like that too. After my personal statements were done, I began applying to schools. I applied within the first 2 weeks of November. They say that the best time to apply is at least before Thanksgiving. Applications open roughly around September for many schools. Many people said to apply before Thanksgiving, but honestly, I would say apply earlier. I applied within the first 2 weeks of November, and even then, I still feel like that was kind of late because of how competitive these cycles are becoming. So many people that got into really good schools, at least what I was seeing, applied within early September, late September, early October, even did like early decision binding programs, things like that. So I would really recommend people think about applying early and prepping your materials early. But once I started to apply, before I applied, I created a list of schools that I wanted to apply to. I was really set on moving out of state for school, so I created a list of schools that were representative of out-of-state schools, and then had some safety schools in California. But I had my schools listed into 3 categories. There was a reach school, a target school, and then a safety school. Reach schools were schools that I did not get the LSAT that they normally look for, the GPA that they normally look for. But, I was still down to apply, thought I could get it, maybe on a really high chance I was able to get in by miracle or whatever. Target schools are maybe my LSAT was in the range, but not my GPA. Maybe they do look like at your experience more than your LSAT. There's a mix of factors that make it a target school. And then there's the safety schools where you know that your GPA is there, your LSAT is there, and that your experience is there. So I split it into those 3 categories, and then bigger categories of in-state and then out-of-state. So I'll just go through each school I applied to, and then I'll put on the screen like whether I got accepted, denied, waitlisted, just so people can see what my spread was like at the end of my law school cycle. So let's get into this. So we'll start with in-state schools. The first school that I applied to was UC Berkeley. This was my goal school. This was my dream school. This is where I really wanted to go. And it was one of the first decisions that I got, which was a rejection. I was really sad. I wasn't sure if I wanted to even move forward with any school anymore. But they normally look for a higher LSAT, higher GPA. UC Berkeley is a T14 school, which means it's a top 14 school. And I just didn't, my undergrad GPA from when I did school 6 years ago was average, and then my LSAT score wasn't a 170 or anything like that. Even though it was pretty high, they just didn't accept me. No reason, you don't get any reason why you don't get chosen, but that was a pretty big bummer for me. I was really sad, but it's okay. You know, life moves on. For me, the outlook that I took on my decisions were, I'm going to end up at the school that wants me. I'm going to end up at the school that wants to invest in me, that sees what I bring, that sees what I offer, and knows that I will become a badass lawyer that's going to help as many people as I can, you know? So I wouldn't take it too personal when you start to get your decisions, because I know they can feel very personal. The second school I applied to was UC Law San Francisco. I did get a pretty nice scholarship. I really considered going to the school. I visited the campus 2 times. I talked a lot with the admissions advisors. I even negotiated my scholarship. But ultimately, because of the cost of living in San Francisco, because of the having to move across the state, it just didn't make sense for me financially. So I couldn't move forward with that school. But I was really excited about the possibility of applying. Next was UCLA. UCLA, I got waitlisted, which I was really excited about. I thought maybe they would move me off the wait list. They never did. To this day, I've never gotten a final decision from UCLA other than a wait list. That's also a T14 school. So the fact that I was waitlisted, I was really excited about. It's not too far from my house. UCLA, I'm staying in LA, but I didn't get accepted. I got waitlisted. UC Irvine, I also got waitlisted. I don't remember the exact date that all of these waitlists acceptances happened. I think they all started at the beginning of the year. So I got my first acceptance as early as January, and then I got my last acceptance all the way, or waitlist all the way up until like May. So it takes a pretty long process for you to get your decisions, because I applied in November, started getting my decisions in January, so about 3 months. Next is Stanford. I kind of got ghosted by Stanford. I never heard back from Stanford. I applied to a program they have called Knight Hennessy Scholars, which is a full ride program. And basically, if you get accepted, you get a full ride to Stanford, all costs covered, full tuition covered, and you're recognized as a Knight Hennessy Scholar with people across the world. I got a first interview, or a video interview, but I didn't get it after the first interview. So I got a rejection from Knight Hennessy, but not a formal rejection from Stanford Law. So I'm assuming that they thought that I would take the rejection from Knight Hennessy as a rejection from Stanford Law. But I feel like they could have been a little bit more explicit. But yeah, that was a ghost, pretty much. The last of my in-state schools, which is the school that I'm choosing to go to, is Loyola Law School in Koreatown. Some people say downtown LA, but it's like kind of downtown, kind of K-Town. It's like different parts of the city, like border. I got accepted. I got a pretty substantial scholarship. I visited the campus many times. It's 10 minutes from my house. And I thought long and hard about whether or not I wanted to go to this school. And I was just welcomed really nicely by other students at this campus, by faculty on this campus, by the admissions team on this campus. And it just felt like somewhere that I would be supported. It wasn't somewhere where I even thought I would end up going. I didn't even want to apply there at first. People urged me to apply. It was nearby. And I ended up getting my highest scholarship from the school. and it's the most convenient school that I get to go to. It's really close to my house, like I said, and it has specialties in both entertainment law, which I'm hoping to get into, and it's social justice oriented. So it has a lot of clinics that are focused on helping people like immigration, criminal justice, youth justice, and many different things. So I'm really excited about attending that school. I'm gonna do a rapid fire of the out-of-state schools because they're out of state. I didn't get into, well, I've got into 2 of them, but just for the sake of time. I applied to Harvard. I got rejected. I didn't think I was gonna get into Harvard, but thought I might as well have applied. Columbia, I got rejected. Also didn't think I was gonna get in, but given what happened with Columbia, like months after I applied, it's okay, I didn't get in. NYU, I got a active consideration, which was a new process that they did this year to let you know that your application was still being considered. I got that around February, and then I ended up getting a rejection a couple months later. Rutgers, which was a school I visited in undergrad that I thought was really amazing. I thought that I would really thrive there. I met the admissions team at several events when I started exploring law schools, and they were really nice to me. I was accepted too. I got an acceptance into Rutgers. Gave me a really, really nice scholarship. I thought about going to Rutgers, but the cost of moving just didn't outweigh the benefit of going there. It's not a super high ranked school, although it is like really values aligned. I don't think it made sense for me at that specific moment. Applied to University of Michigan, which is also a T14 school. I was rejected. And then the last school I applied to out of state was CUNY, City University of New York, which when I first applied to law school was the school that I really wanted to go to. I've heard of amazing, like badass social justice lawyers, like radical lawyers, public defenders that have gone to CUNY. And they were the only school in the whole admissions process that counted their demographic of trans people that have gone to their school, sexual minorities, things like that. So it made me really excited and knew that I would feel welcome there. And I was accepted. And so I was really excited about the possibility of applying to CUNY. The tuition's really low. I didn't get any scholarship money there. So it just also didn't make sense to move to New York without any financial assistance. That's all of the schools I applied to. I applied to 12 schools total. I got 2 wait lists, 4 acceptances, and 6 rejections. Yeah. Ooh, looking back at it, if I could tell myself, that you're gonna go to an amazing school, don't stress, you're gonna get into law school, I would. I was crying throughout the entire process. I thought about whether or not this is a journey that was right for me. And I just kept pushing with it, and it ended up working out, I'm starting school in less than 2 weeks, like I said. And we'll see how it goes for me. I don't know what to expect. I know it's going to be difficult. I know it's going to be uncomfortable, but I know it's going to be worth it. To share a little bit about my plans, if people are curious, I'm kind of making a pivot from the work that I've done. I come from a lot of trans justice organizing, advocacy work, policy work, and I'm pivoting into entertainment. I want to work with artists. I want to work with creatives in realms of intellectual property. I want to represent artists in either music and film. But I'm pretty open to the realm of entertainment. And long term, after I explore this new field, I want to start my own low to no cost law firm of queer, trans, radical attorneys for queer and trans people. So many of us experience discrimination on a day-to-day basis, and we don't have access to representation. We don't have access to getting the justice that we deserve or that we seek. And I hope through my law school journey, I'm able to help alleviate some of that on our community. That brings me to the end of this video. If people are curious about any other aspects of my law school journey, please do feel free to reach out to me. Leave a comment. Let me know if you want me to talk about any other specific aspect. But I mainly wanted to talk about my process from the LSAT, my applications, my statements, and where I'm going. So I am signing out. My name is Michelle de la Cuadra. I am 28 years old from Los Angeles, California, and I will be attending Loyola Law School starting August 18th. So wish me luck. Thank you, everybody, and have a beautiful day.